Sorry, I was focusing on cutting through a neighborhood, and someone was backing out of the driveway, and then there's I assume a retired cop car because it looks like shit behind me, but it still has all of its lights, and it's a dusty AF. So I don't know if it's a real cop or not. Not that it matters. I don't think it is. He's not driving like. I don't know. Anyway. So I was just watching things unfold, and I went back and forth about if I was even going to do, like, briefly, like, I'm like, oh, tomorrow's Friday, and then today I'm like, oh, it's Friday, and, like, I'm feeling kind of tired. Like, I just feel like I haven't been sleeping well in general, and there's been a lot on my plate, a lot of things that I'm trying to do that affect my life and my overall existence, I guess. And so yeah, I wasn't sure if I was going to make a video. At one point I thought I would, and I just kind of went back and forth, and I made a video last week. Happy Vulnerable AF Friday, by the way. I made a video last week, and I didn't post it because we all know why. We know about everything that's been unfolding, and people's emotions being elevated, so to speak. And I don't think that my emotions were necessarily elevated when I made my video, but I kind of found myself like, you can't talk about what happened in Utah and not encompass all the things that were continuously up for debate. You know, it kind of touches into everything that, you know, I kind of have my own opinions about that might be strong and people might not like or appreciate. But as a person with PTSD, as a woman who tends to be fearful of men because of my experiences and whatever, like, these are all things that have shaped me into the way that I think, believe, and feel. And I'm not going to sacrifice any of that for the sake of inclusivity, which is a word I've grown to strongly dislike because it has become so polarized. And I'm sitting here at the light back there, leaving the neighborhood, and I wore makeup yesterday. Now my eyes are angry at me because I didn't wipe it off well enough. But I was sitting at the light back there, and when I was thinking about, am I going to get on? Am I not going to get on? I started thinking about everything that's going on. You know what I mean? When the Charlie Kirk incident happened, you couldn't not know about it. You know what I mean? Like, and I didn't even really know who Charlie Kirk was. Charlie Kirk was a face to me, okay? Like, I'd seen some of his videos, and I can't say that I necessarily disagreed with many of them. I do feel like he typically represented the best of debate in the fact that he did not let his emotions persuade him into swaying from facts necessarily, right? And to me, again, like, this is not even what I was going to talk about, but since I'm just letting it flow, whatever comes out is whatever's going to come out. You know, whether you agree or disagree, and I'm probably sure there's probably things he said that I probably wouldn't agree with, you know, or that I would have a hard time taking as truth, taking as fact, taking as even an opinion, you know what I mean? But I never saw him attacking people physically. I never saw him, from the bits that I've seen. I haven't, like, watched all his videos, and we can all cherry pick. We can all cherry pick whatever we want to validate our stance, our feelings, whatever. That's what we all do anyway, right? Like, there's no argument under the sun that does not have a well-established counter argument. You know, there's no argument under the sun where you can't go cherry pick the part that, and that's the point, right? Like, lawyers do that, right? They cherry pick parts of a situation to either frame the person they're against as the problem and to, you know, basically claim the innocence of whoever it is they're trying to defend, right? So cherry picking is just kind of, unfortunately, a part of life. But I was sitting there at the light thinking about, like, you know, I saw this video yesterday, and I went through several of them. This is talking about cherry picking, right? Like, because the thing is, whether you agree or like Charlie Kirk or not, I do believe in being truthful. I do believe in following the truth, even when it takes you somewhere you don't want to go, even when it takes you somewhere you didn't think you'd end up. Because that's what the truth is, and that's what the truth does. It anchors you in reality. You know what I mean? And there have been times where I've kind of got an inclination about something, or an intuitive whatever about something, and I'll think, let me kind of follow this more. Let me pay attention to where this shows up for me in life, and follow wherever that leads and see what it unturns, you know? And sometimes it's things that I'm not really fond of, like when I found the truth sort of pulling me away from the ideologies, I guess, of being a Democrat, right? Like seeing the Democrats for who they really are, who and what they really are years ago, you know, and then feeling like I feel more aligned with what people would call Republicans, but also I don't even want to be in a political party because it's so divisive, right? Like, I would much rather have self-governance than be governed by any political party or body or leader or whatever. Like, and I don't even know what makes them the leader. Like, they're all supposed to be civil servants that work for us. So I think that's where a lot of people get things twisted too. Like, they act like all these diplomats and politicians and whatever are the end-all be-all of existence, and that's because we allow them. We allow them by the bullshit that we get divided into, and the more separate we become, the more power those we've put in power, whether we've actually put them in power or, you know, that's the thing. Like, there's so many other issues in this world that need to be addressed before we sit here and get online and say that hate speech is because you hurt my feelings. No, that's not what hate speech is. Your feelings getting hurt, you feeling disrespected, that's not hate speech. So y'all need to stop getting some things twisted, first of all. So it's just, you know, it's wild to me. So I'm sitting here and I'm like, man, like, oh, I was going to talk about this girl. So there was this girl who I guess was laughing, or maybe not laughing, right? Like, I haven't done enough digging to give an accurate reporting. Okay, let's start there and be real and be honest, okay? But some people that I watch on YouTube had shared her video about her crying about losing her job, kinda. And I'm always curious. I always want to go deeper. I'm never happy with surface level, especially when I feel like videos get cut off soon, you know what I mean? Again, cherry picking, right? So I'm like, well, let me know. Let me be an informed individual, and let me go to this person's TikTok or Instagram or whatever the fuck it was that I went to. And she was actually making some sort of valid arguments, you know what I mean? And she seemed like a fairly reasonable person, you know? Although she did kind of have some mismatch, right? Because on one hand, her whole argument was, I lost my job because I got doxxed by white supremacists. Now, whether that part is true or false, I don't know. I'm just repeating what she said, okay? Which also, I mean, is that really the truth? Or, because she's also saying someone that I went to school with, I think someone she went to college with, put out her information and doxed her. So if they're the ones who put your information out, were they the white supremacist, or did white supremacists then find your information that somebody else had already put out there? I have questions. I want to understand. You know what I mean? I want truth. I want transparency. And it's something we haven't had in this world probably ever, really, truly. And why is that not what we're all picking up a fucking pitchfork about? That's what I want to know. Do you know what I mean? And so she was going on and talking about, well, the reason that I lost my job, she's like, I love my job. It was like my dream job, blah, 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 blah. I just bought a house, a condo, whatever. And, you know, she's like, so now what am I going to do? And, like, honestly, I can't help but, like, have some admiration for her, because she's like, oh, you know, day one of me not having a job, and here's what I'm doing, and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, she's exploring her, like some people would take a moment like that and fucking crumble. Okay? Present parties included. Old me would have took a hit like that. I've been fired from a job, and I fucking crumbled. Do you know what I mean? I crumbled, and I had unemployment and come in and whatever, but it was like this blow to me and my wounded self that was not, I could not handle, especially when I felt like I had been set up for failure. And on one hand, they were telling me what a good employee I was, and then on this other hand, you know, like, I think I started to rock the boat, and that was really how I lost my job. Like, I was calling out things for what they were, and that's how I think I really ended up losing my job. But at the end of the day, it did probably boil down to performance, because I had a lot of depression and anxiety, and life was hard. Life was hard then. And I'm not saying it's not hard now. I'm just saying that I've learned better how to deal with some things, and I've developed tools while trying to heal my PTSD and shit to allow life to happen without it. Is there a mosquito in here? Allow life to happen without it completely wrecking me all the time. I'm not saying I don't still have my moments where I fucking break down and I feel overwhelmed and like a problem is bigger than me, but it's not like it used to be, okay? But I'm sitting there, so yeah, she's talking about, you know, and she kind of brought up, there's a mosquito in here. She had brought up, I tried to let it out a minute ago. Get out of my car. She had kind of brought up, you know, about a certain death that happened while being arrested. Someone was being arrested and all this other stuff. And she's like, oh, well, the people that are upset about the Charlie Kirk thing, they finally just get to see it now for what it is. And to some degree, I think there's a valid point being made there. But also, I think there's more to it. I do firmly believe we are in a spiritual war, and we have been in a spiritual war for a long, long time. And I do think that there is something more to it than just, this is some white dude who was MAGA, who was killed, who was, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like on a spiritual level, there was more to it. Not to say that, like, not to, like, put him on some pedestal or anything like that, because I didn't even know his actual name. I knew his face. I did not know his actual name. And I do remember, though, when I found out who it was and it was him, that I felt kind of sad, because I had some respect for the dude, going to places, having debates, basically, that were respectful, in my opinion. Like, I think he let people talk. I think he tried to let people argue their points. And I do think there are a lot of people that are out there that are in their feelings and they want to argue, but they're not arguing facts. They're arguing from their feelings, and that's not how we get things solved. As a person who has been steered through life, most of her life, controlled by her emotions that were extremely dysregulated, my life was so upside down. Okay, so that's part of why I want to speak on this, because it all kind of has to do with, like, mental health and all those things. And I don't people are mad because Charlie Kirk was saying something about he's not about empathy, he's about sympathy. And this is really interesting, because I remember in one of my sessions I'm a kind of person where sometimes I like to look up the definition of a word. Even though I know the word, it's like, I don't know, reading the definition like just does something different to my brain. It does something to my emotions sometimes. And so I had looked up the word pity or sympathy or something like that. And like, I remember feeling some kind of way about it, because I'm like, I don't want people to feel sorry for me. I don't want people to pity me. I don't want to pity myself. But also in that vein, I'm not giving myself the sympathy that I do deserve for all the shit I have been through. You know what I mean? Like you can't be so proud that you're not willing to even give yourself some sympathy or allow other people to have sympathy. And that's the thing, like, everybody wants to villainize everything instead of like taking a step out of their feelings and mentally processing something a little bit. Like, they're both important, the mind and the emotion. Like, here's to me, in my brain, in my understanding, my experience, this is the emotional body. This is where I feel fucking everything. Right here. Okay? This is where I overthink everything. This is where I dissect things. This is where I break them down. So I need them to work together. And if they're not in unison, I'm not making any decisions. If they're not in unison, I'm not putting things out there anymore, right? You know, I can't just speak only from my feelings. I'm not saying that feelings aren't valid and that we should not express them, but there's a time and a place for everything. You know what I mean? And I don't think anybody, like, again, like, I'm in a weird spot because, I mean, I don't agree with people laughing about someone's horrific assassination like that. You know what I mean? Any of them, anybody that's been killed in any way where their time happened too soon, okay? You're never gonna be like, oh, he deserved it, or like, it's sad. It's sad each time, you know what I mean? But I wouldn't be out here laughing about it, like, you know what I mean? And I say that, but then I think in my mind, is there any person where I might celebrate their death? And there probably is at least one. Honestly, maybe a couple, maybe some people that have harmed me, maybe some people that are assumed to have a kill count, a kill list, maybe. But somebody who's just out here not really trying to hurt anybody, just speaking honestly their beliefs and their faith and whatever. And look, as like an ex-atheist, like, he would have irked me to my core as an ex-atheist, or when I was in my deep atheism phase, he probably would have irked me to my core. But here's the beauty of life: you have a decision, a choice, a chance every day to decide who you are, who you're going to be, what you stand for. And this is how my true spiritual awakening started. Was I started realizing that a lot of different people were saying that I was a bitch, and they were people that they had no contact, no relation to one another, but me. I was the common denominator. They didn't know each other. And so I had to sit with myself and be like, is there truth to this? Like, it's one thing when you got a group of friends and they all know each other and they're like, yeah, Nicole, you're kind of a bitch, versus people that don't know each other saying something similar. So that's the thing. When you start hearing people that care about you, people that are friends, sort of, you know, repeating the same things, at some point you have to be willing to be brave and courageous enough to look at yourself and look within yourself and say, is there truth to this? And in what instances could this possibly be true? And you don't have to change anything you don't want to change. But, you know, I started thinking about, what do I want people to say about me when I die? When I'm in my whatever, when I'm buried in a tree, because that's what I want. Okay, everybody listen up. When I'm buried in a tree, like, you know how you can be planted in like a pod and then they put a tree in it and put it in the ground. That's how I want to go out. Okay? When I'm put back in the ground as the food and the vibrancy of a tree, I go, oh gosh, it's an animal? No. Where was I going with that? I want to know what people, here's what I want. I want people to say she was kind, she was funny, she was real, she was honest, she kept it 100. She always tried to help other people within her means, right? Because I had to learn too, like, I got people pleaser tendencies, and sometimes I gotta chill out on all that, and I gotta not please myself, but make sure I'm taking care of myself, right? Because so often I try to give what I don't have and pour it in someone else's cup, or in a lot of cases try to pour into someone else's sieve who's not ready to even hold what I'm trying to give. You know what I mean? So like, you have to think about things like that. And I think a lot of people, they don't love themselves. And I think when you start learning to love yourself, you don't have this loss of sense of self. I think here's what's coming together for me, formulating in my brain as I'm talking, okay? A lack of identity is not a lack of self. It is a lack of self-love. Because once you start loving yourself, you don't have to try to be something to feel like someone. Okay, when you start loving yourself, you start just accepting what is, without trying to label it, without trying to define it. And that is probably one of the greatest, most beautiful gifts I've started to give myself on my own healing journey. You know, so I'm not really with everything that's going on. That's part of why I didn't post last week, because I was like, I just feel like I'm feeding more into the divide, and I don't want to do that. It's happening enough around me as it is. Like, you can't even get online anymore without it being pro or con. And where's the middle ground? Because that's where I want to be. And that's the people that aren't getting online, that aren't saying shit. That's the middle ground. Where are my people at? Holler at your girl, because I don't want to be divided. And the person that we're all fighting about, at the end of the day, doesn't want us to be divided either. That's the real fucking wild part about it. That's the real fucking wild part about it. That person who we're all divided over would not want us to be divided. Regardless of how you think, feel, or believe about him. He would not want us to be divided. So, but yeah, I was sitting there thinking about, it's so weird how we're all caught up in the wrapper, right? We're all caught up in how something looks, on how somebody presents or whatever. And I'm not saying that I'm not guilty. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to say, like, when I see someone looking a certain way that I don't get a certain feeling about it, like, oh, here we go. And I think part of that really is, I'm pretty good at picking up on people, you know, on some things. I'm pretty intuitive when I encounter people. And it doesn't really take me long to kind of feel somebody out and kind of see what they're about and even see their potential, right? Like, that's really one of my Achilles heels, is I'm always quick to try to see somebody's potential that they don't even see or want for themselves. But I do think it's interesting, as much as they censor the internet, that there have been two deaths that have basically been shoved in our face that we can't escape. Whether people think this is real or not real or fake or staged, it's kind of irrelevant, because you're never going to get everybody on that page, unfortunately. Even if you're right, even if you can show people, there's always going to be somebody that doesn't agree. And what's more important, getting people to see the stage for what it is, if that's the case, or getting people to see that they're missing the point. Like, my thing is, how is the takeaway from this not life is precious? Whether this is fucking faked or staged or planned or whatever the case may be, like, how is the takeaway not hug the ones you love tighter? How is it not tomorrow's promise to nobody? You know, I'm out here, I'm trying to level myself up. I'm trying to reach for things that I normally in the past wouldn't reach for, wouldn't think that I was capable of. and all this, you know what I mean? Over here thinking like I'm gonna go home tonight, you know what I mean? And I'm gonna see the people I care about, and I'm gonna do whatever, and I'm gonna see my dog, and I'm gonna go to bed, and I have so much cleaning to do this weekend, and right? But something could happen to me right now, and that's it. Lights out. It don't matter. It don't matter what I think about Charlie Kirk. It don't matter what I think about people's rappers, whether they're brown, orange, pink, unicorns, whatever the fuck, okay? Because I don't even want to be a part of that. I don't want to be a part of the division. I don't want to be a part of the hatred. And so many people, especially, it's really strange because I feel like a lot of people that identify as liberal, I'm not trying to create a debate or anything like that. I'm just saying, observationally, I feel like a lot of people who are liberal, who are like, don't hate a lot more than most people, in my opinion. They're a lot quicker to cut people off, and I've cut people off too, and so I'm not trying to judge. I understand a lot better than most people think, because I've been through some shit, and I've processed some shit, and I try to approach people with patience and understanding, and I try to be someone that people can be themselves around. Even if I don't understand it, even if I don't agree with it, because a lot of times the outside isn't even the part that even fucking matters. But that's where we put all of our emphasis. You know what I mean? And we need to just chill the fuck out. Honestly, we just need to chill out. We have a green light. We gonna just stay here all day? Thank you. Now it's turning yellow. Appreciate you. Waiting on a color we like. So, you see, like, some people would have been like mad as shit and they're like, motherfucker. And sometimes I can be that person, I'm not gonna lie. But I'm trying really hard lately. And it's funny too, because while I was sitting there reflecting about rappers, like we get so caught up in like what's on the outside. Then I'm sitting there thinking about, Nicole, you said in your video that you didn't post, you said you were gonna work on being kinder, because that's the antidote to what's going on in the world. People need to be kinder, you know, and a lot of that starts when you love yourself, because you can't love anybody if you don't love yourself. Like truer words have never been spoken. As much as that sucks and it feels like it's cliche, it's true. Because when you hate yourself, you hate everybody. There might be a few people you like, but for the most part, you don't like people. And I can relate, because a lot of times I don't really still like people either, but because I don't agree with the whole, this false construct that people have, that we have some control. We don't have control. We control ourselves, and even that, life happens. Things greater than us, beyond our control, still happen, regardless of the control we try to carry and have within ourselves. So, and then it got me thinking about this poem that I'm pretty sure I already shared on my channel, and I think it was part of a longer video, and I cut just the poem, and but it was making me think about it again, that the victimhood, right, is the name of the poem. Victimhood. Bleed for me, feel my wounds, endure my pain that all consumes. Feel guilty for crimes you didn't commit. The past never dies when you sit with it. I'd slice my wrist open, but you'd be dissatisfied to see that we're the same. It all turns red on the outside. You'd say I'm not suffering enough, that I don't understand. Your wounds are deeper, you're scarred like the land. Yet you stay, despite all you've survived. The ones who have harmed you move on with their lives. You've chosen to stay wounded by refusing to heal. You hold on to the pain, speaking it is too real. That's the truth we really need to speak, right? So, and it's that poem's coming up very strong for me today, because of everything that's been transpiring, and I know I'm just a shout in the void, and I'm really basically just a nobody. But I hope that more people start realizing you're falling into the trap. Victimhood, and I would put in parentheses next to the title, victimhood, the what is it, like the deadliest trap, or the, I forget what I wrote next to it now, but it's like that is the trap. Being a victim is the fucking trap. Holding on to things and using that as your reason or excuse or whatever for how and why you are, instead of taking the reins of your life with some courage and determination and saying, no, this will not be me. This will no longer, it will no longer shape me negatively. Like, I'm appreciative for all the shit that came before who I am today, because all that shit makes me appreciate today that much more. Even though it was hard, even though I wish that nobody ever had to go through that kind of shit. Really and truly, I wish people did not have to go through that kind of shit. Traumas and being abused and, you know, being sort of neglected and abandoned, and I wish people didn't have to go through that, but it's unfortunately part of the human condition. And what the point is even the point if we just come here and we let that be what controls us and dictates our entire life and future. I took my parking spot, bro. It's all right. So I don't know. I don't have the answers. I understand people have feelings, and I'm not saying that they're wrong for having their feelings. I'm just saying, at what point do you stop letting your feelings control you and you start to control you? Because all this stuff that's going on, all this arguing and bickering and everything that you're seeing unfold online and whatever, that's what does not benefit us. Like, when are we as like a species gonna realize that championing humanity is not tearing each other apart and tearing each other down? You know what I mean? You're not saving anybody. You're not saving anybody by making us more divided. You're making us weaker. Think about history. What's the purpose of division? What happens when we're divided? What happens when we've already lost our sense of humanity in a lot of ways. So who are you gonna be? And what are people gonna say about you when you die? Because tomorrow ain't promised to nobody. My next breath, not promised to me. My next heartbeat, not promised to me. But I'm grateful. I'm still sitting here. I'm still speaking. I'm still beating. So, if you can't love nobody fuck else today, please love yourself. Be kind to yourself. Be patient with yourself. Be forgiving of yourself. Give yourself some grace so that you can extend that to others. Be a part of the solution, not the problem. I know a lot of people think being the solution is going out there going rah, rah, rah and virtue signaling, but it's not. It's not. So, try to be kinder, if not to anybody else, to yourself. Take care.